What's up YouTube, and welcome to another Infinite Painter tutorial where today I'm going to show you how you can create this Christmas tree design. Now as always, there's links to everything you're going to need for today's design in the requirements section of the description down below. Now in the last two tutorials I've been changing how I import my palettes, and you can see we've got a little reference image here. I'll show you how to do that in the actual tutorial itself, as well as a simple guide as well, which you'll need to save to your photos of your device. So I hope you're looking forward to today's tutorial. As always, make sure to drop a like, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of a design like this, and subscribe of course for more Infinite Painter content. And with all that said, let's get started. So if we go ahead and we create a new canvas and we set the size at 2000 by 2000, we then have the canvas size that we need for today. So when we hit create, the first couple of things we're going to do is we're going to add in a guide, and we're also going to add in our palette. So we're going to go up to the three dots in the top right. We'll go to the option of import, and we'll grab the photo, or whether you saved it to your files, it's totally up to you, but we're going to grab from photos. And we're going to go ahead and grab the guide image. And once you tap on it, you'll then have the option here to import it as a layer, which we're going to do. And then that will just drop onto the page and hit the tick when you're done. And then we're going to go ahead and add in the palette. So we'll go up to the three dots, we'll go to the option of import again, we'll go to our photos yet again, and we'll grab this image here, we'll tap in on it, and then we're going to go ahead and change it to a reference. So then that way we can keep that up there. Now you can see we've got the palette up here at the top, and I've explained this previously that I can tap on a color here and you can see my color here change. And if yours doesn't do that, just simply go up to your options and go to the options of settings. And then in here, just make sure long press is set to the eyedropper. So just select the eyedropper on long press, and you should then be able to hold down and grab the color from there. And then that way we can keep the palette up there at all times. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is change our background. So we're going to go to this little dot here and change the background color. And we'll go ahead and grab our little pipette here. And then we're going to grab the color here in the bottom right of the palette. Change it to that dark blue. We'll then go ahead and create a new layer. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go to our brush. We're going to change our brush to calligraphy and the monoline brush. And we're going to set the size at something quite small, probably around about sort of 10. And we're going to go ahead and grab the color here at the top of the second column from the right, this slight little off-white color. We're then going to go ahead and go up to our tools. We're going to go to the option of circle here. And we're going to start in the middle of our screen, and we're going to drag outwards, creating a circle. And we want to sort of make it around about sort of this sort of size, so that we can just go ahead and sort of crop out a little bit of our design. So a little something like this. Position it as best you can in the center of your canvas, like so. And then when you're done, tap on the circle tool up here. Then go to your fill option here under create and tools. And then just tap and drag to the right a little bit, just round the outside edge to create our frame, and then hit the tick when you're done. We're then going to go ahead and move on to the basic shapes of our tree. So we're going to go ahead and we'll create a new layer, and we want to position it in front of our guide image here. So this image here is our guide, and we're also going to position it right at the very top of our layers. We're then going to go ahead and grab the bottom color here in the third column from the right. So this color here. It's dark green, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to our options. We're going to go to the option here of symmetry, and we're going to tap on vertical. So we're going to get this line running down the middle of our screen, and we're just going to hit the lock straight off the bat, which what that does is that means now while this is in play up here, what we draw on one side is reflected on the other, meaning we can just do the work once. Now I'm going to set my monoline to around about sort of 20 pixels. But if we go ahead and go to the settings here, we're going to go ahead and see that the smoothing is set all the way up to the maximum, because I want some nice smooth lines out here. And then we'll hit the back arrow, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at our design. Now, this tree that I've provided literally is just a very, 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 very loose guide. I don't want you to follow it to the point. I'm actually going to reduce my brush size down, to around about sort of 12 points. And what we're going to do is we're going to start on the line at the top, and we're just going to create little sort of V shapes like this. And we're going to just continue that all the way down our tree. Again, using sort of my little guide that I've provided for you as a very, very loose guide. Now, the only thing you need to make sure you do is just link up to the line before it. So just make sure you're connecting all your lines together, just creating these little V shapes. And then you can go ahead and maybe create like a little smaller one under here. And then we'll just drag this down into there. I've got a bit of a gap here, so I'll definitely include a new one in there. And then we'll just let that run out to the edge. This is exactly what we want. And then we're going to keep going into the bottom corner. And then from there, we just need to start to create sort of the skirt here at the bottom of the tree, and just create a little sort of V shape. So they're just going to cross over each other until you create something like this. Now this mayhem is exactly what we want. We're going to go ahead and go to our create options. We're going to go to the fill tool now and tap and drag to the right to fill that in, and hit the tick when you're done. You should end up with a silhouette of the tree. Now I've purposely made it a little bit taller at the top because I want it to exceed our design ever so slightly later on. So what we'll then do is we'll drag it now underneath the circle little frame that we created. And let's chop away the very top. So we'll tap on our tree. We'll go to the option of select. So we'll grab select here. So now we've selected the shape of the tree. If we then change to the layer of the frame above it now, then we go to our eraser, tap on the eraser and just use any brush such as calligraphy and the monoline brush. All we need to do is just erase this little part here at the top. And then tap on this dot up here to cancel the selection. And now the tip of the tree is exceeding the boundary, which means it just has that little extra 3D element to it where it's popping outwards. Now we can go ahead and we can tap on our guide image that we had before. We'll tap on it and we'll simply just delete it. We don't need that anymore. We'll then go ahead and create a new layer and drag it underneath the tree. And we'll go ahead and we'll go to our color. We'll grab the bottom color here in the fourth column from the right. So this one just here, tap it on the color. We'll go ahead and make sure our brush is still set to the monoline brush, which it is. And all we need to do is draw in a bit of a stump here at the bottom. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a little bit of a stump. We've got the symmetry tool still in play, so we can just link that up across the bottom and then link underneath our tree. But you need to make sure it goes side to side and you link them together, so that you can go to your create option to go to fill and tap and drag to the right a little bit just to fill that in, and hit the tick when you're done. Let's then create a new layer, drag it underneath our stump, and let's go ahead and turn off the symmetry tool here because we don't need that in play anymore. We're going to go ahead and grab the bottom color here in the second column from the right, so this little sort of light green color. Same brush, we're just going to simply make our way through here, just creating sort of bouncy lines. You might not be able to see it too well against the sort of background, but it's not critical. And then I'm drawing all the way around into my start point. So again, I can go to my fill tool and I can just tap in this space and hit the tick when I'm done. Now I'm just going to make a minor adjustment to my stump here, where I'm just going to change the shape of it. I just want to round it off a little bit more at the bottom here, just bringing it downwards a bit more. So I'm just going to do exactly that. Just going to round this off. We are going to sort of lose this in a moment. And then what we'll do is, while we're on the stump itself, let's go to our eraser. Let's tap on the eraser. We're going to go to the option of sprayers, and we're going to use the soft airbrush. We're going to set the size to something a bit smaller, maybe around about sort of 70. And I'm just going to sort of blend out the bottom edge of this tree. That's why I've made it a little bit longer, because we need the sort of space just to sort of blend it out. And then you can make it a little bit wobbly down here as well if you like, to make it look like the snow is sort of wrapped all the way around it. So let's then go ahead and start to work on the tree itself. We're going to create a new layer in front of the tree. We're going to tap on that new layer and we're going to clip it to the tree, meaning now we can't paint outside of the boundaries of this tree that we've drawn. We're going to go to our colors and grab the middle color here in that second column from the right. And our brush wants to be set to the option of paint. And we're going to use the brush of the old varnish. Love this brush for this particular effect. And the size is going to be set to around about sort of 55 to 60. Now what you're going to want to do, this is going to be also dependent if you have pressure sensitivity. We're going to just stroke up the edge here of the side of the tree. And we're going to create lots of small areas of snow. Now, if you don't have pressure sensitivity, you're going to end up with quite a solid line like this. If you do have pressure sensitivity, you'll be able to sort of tip your pen on its side and just get these little sort of scrapes of colour. So you will need to sort of factor that into your work depending on how or what device you have and what availability of tools you have. Now, what we can do is we can go ahead and just simply go down this edge here, and we're just creating little V shapes like this. So all I want you to create little V shapes. So we're just going to go down the majority here of the branches, and we're just adding this lovely coat of snow onto it. Now don't worry about the middle, and try not to go sort of too close to the one above it. Create a little bit of a gap so you've got a little bit of shadow here. And we're just going to go down them and create little sort of varieties in some of the branches. A little bit like this, and then I've got a little one here underneath, so I'll add some snow onto that and try and leave a little bit of a gap. And then when you sort of get into sort of this area here being a bit empty, don't do this middle area down here just yet. Just right next to the branches you just created, just create more little sort of V shapes like this. Just little V shapes, and that's just going to be your branches. Zoom out, don't get lost in those details, as I always say. Take a look at your branches and then carry on. So we'll just go down here, just adding in some lovely little snowy areas to our branches, and then I've got another big gap here, so I'm going to keep it a little bit lighter. I don't want to sort of press too firm with my brush. A little bit like this, just to create some snowy branches. We'll make sure we get right up to this outer edge of our little circle frame, and then we're making our way along the bottom as well. Now I've not used the symmetry tool because I want the two sides to be different to each other, otherwise it's really easy to spot the symmetry. The shape that we're using right now, and by the way I'm about to pivot from the left side to the right side, so my angle of my lines are going to change now. We're just creating the top edge and underneath a little bit. So we don't want the tree to be too symmetrical with its elements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the top now and make my way back down the tree. So I'm just going to add in some more color over here. One thing that's really apparent a lot of the time with something like this is when you switch it to the opposite side and you're going from a different angle, you'll be able to see just a natural difference between your hand and the strokes it makes when it's at different angles. These ones are very different to each other simply because of the angle of the canvas and the angle we're going at the sort of strokes from. So again, I'm just going to add in these little sort of V shapes. That's all we want to add in, little V shapes. Little V's. I'm going to add in another one here. I'm just trying to coat the top of these branches, adding in some snow. Less will be more, so let's not add in quite as much as that. Let's add in a little bit less. Less, again, will be more later on. And we're going to go through and erase from this in a moment. So if you haven't got pressure sensitivity, there should be a part in this in a moment where you should be able to sort of add in a little bit of texture. And let's then continue with the sort of shapes and make our way into the middle. Now, of course, these branches that we're looking at right now, they have a side profile because they're around the edge of the tree. But the ones in the middle, they're going to be facing directly at us. So we just want to sort of create sort of downward lines almost. So you can just create these little sort of downward lines in here. And that's a branch essentially facing us. And we can just create a variety of the sort of branch angles. Again, less will be more. We don't have to go too crazy with it. Or something like this. You can overlap a few of them if you want to. It's best to start on the outside and always make your way in with the tree, because then you can just really play with the space you've got available and make your way inwards. If you started and made your way from left to right, you may make some too big and it may not be a pattern that you can sustain across the tree. But by just creating these little sort of very simple basic shapes, we can definitely give the illusion of a snowy tree. Let's continue down, adding in some little sort of V shapes all the way down towards the bottom. Taking a look at that again, when you zoom out, you should have just a full snowy tree. And you can get in here and you can join a few together. You can maybe sort of link a few. Again, less will be more. So you can maybe just sort of dance in a little bit more snow here and there with some light pressure, especially at the top here. I'm going to add in a little bit of extra snow right towards the top edge. And then in some of the gaps, I'll just give some very, 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 very light coats with my pen on its side. You may or may not be able to do this depending again on your hardware. By the way, if you're interested, I'm using an iPad Pro and the Apple Pencil. Now, once you've got to this point here, we're then going to go ahead and go to our eraser and use the same brush. So we'll go to our eraser, we'll go back into paint, we'll go to the option of the vintage brush that we were just using. So the old vintage. Feel free to use a different brush if you want to try and pull off this effect. And the brush, I'm going to make it a bit smaller than what we were drawing with. So I've gone down to about 33. So that then what we can do is, I want to sort of blend out the top edge of some of these lines here. So the top of the lines, essentially where the branch above is maybe casting a bit of a shadow. So just underneath in certain areas, I want to take away a bit of the boldness, and I'm being very, very light here just to scratch away some of the snow, and definitely sort of fading out a few of these sort of quite obvious paint strokes, to just sort of fading them out where they make their way in towards the body of the tree, and then we are left with just what we can see on the ends. Just blending that out on the top, blending this out really, really light with my pressure, and then trying to just take a look, see if we're just left with those snowy tips on the edge of the branches. That's exactly what we want. We're just going to take away a little bit more color here. Just lots of little dashes, and don't be afraid to sort of really, really hack away at one or two. Really take away a bit of color here on this right side. The right side is going to be our shadowed side of the tree. So if you want to, you can, really hack away at it, as I mentioned, and break it down, break down the sort of shapes in there. It's totally up to you what you want to do. I'm just taking a look now, see if I can do any more. I can always come back to it if I want to. And taking a look at that, we should have this awesome snowy tree effect. And I'm just going to try and break down a little bit more of this edge over here, like so. Let's then add some color to this. So if we go ahead and we tap on this layer now and we alpha lock it, so we tap on it and alpha lock it, we can't paint outside of these little strokes that we've made. So if we now change our color to the bottom color here in that second column from the right, so this bottom color here, if we go to our brush, we tap on the brush and we change it to the option of sprayers and the soft airbrush. My settings down here for the soft airbrush are these ones as followed. And the size, we're just going to make it quite a large size, something that we can see quite a large head on it. So something around about maybe 400, I believe. And we're going to go ahead and just shade down this right side of the tree. Just like this. Really simple, just to sort of give the whole thing a stroke of color and show that rolling round of the color. Then what we'll go ahead and do is, while we're using the soft airbrush, let's go ahead and tap on the tree. Let's tap on the tree itself and alpha lock it. And then we'll go to our colors and we'll grab the top color here in the third column from the right, this more punchy green. And we're going to do the same, but we're going to go down the left side this time. And we're going to build up some brighter green and more fun green on this left-hand side. So more right up against the edge of the tree, just trying to paint in a little bit of green like so. Then we're going to go back up to the snow. We're going to go to our colors and grab the top of the second column here. And then we're going to go back to our brush and we're going to use the old varnish, the same one that we were using before. I might have called it vintage before, but it's the old varnish. And the size, we're just going to bring that size down to around about sort of maybe 33 again. And now we've got the brighter snow, we can go ahead and just position it where we want it on the left edge. So now we're just painting within the snow that we've previously done, and I'm just lightly coating over the top of some of my snow here on this left edge. So just giving it some nice brighter highlight color, and that should then also nicely separate it from that right hand side. So I'm just trying to sort of scatter on some white on top of these areas here, over here where the lighting is hitting the most. And then when we get to sort of the middle point, you just want to make a decision on a few of them that you want to maybe add some color to. So maybe just on like the top edge maybe, and don't wrap it round into the shadows too much. We don't want to add light where there isn't any. And then maybe just the tiniest little bit right on the very edge where the light is maybe wrapping around the back end of the tree. Like a little something like this, not on the branch, we'll get rid of that one. You don't have to do every single one, just like a little bit there, just to sort of give it a little bit of edge highlighting. Let's then move down to the stump. So we'll tap on the stump, we'll tap on it and we'll lock it. We'll go to our colors and grab the color up from it. So it's the middle of the fourth column from the right. It's a nice light brown color, and we'll just add in a few simple streaks down here. That's all you need to do. We'll then move to the ground. We'll tap on the ground and we'll lock it. So it's this layer here you can see flashing. We're going to go to our colors and grab the middle color here in that second column from the right. Brush, let's make it back up to around about sort of the 55 or 50 mark, something around there. And then we're going to add in some snow. So we're going to sort of brighten up the back edge a little bit. And then we're going to just simply sort of create little sort of mounds and little jitters here and there, and make sure to brighten up on the back end and just create lots of sort of wobbly lines, lots of little sort of wavy shapes in here to create some mounds of snow. Now you can see I've left sort of the base of the tree because the snow wouldn't really wrap under there. So I'm just going to brighten up sort of the left edge and a little bit round to the right. And you can see I've got little sort of mounds of colour. We're then going to go ahead and go to our colours and grab, the top of the second column from the right, up here in your palette. Top of the second column from the right. And then we'll go over the top again, just like we did with our branches, and just find areas in there that you want to maybe brighten up with some whiter areas of snow. You don't have to do everywhere. Keep it nice and small if you like, and along that top edge. And then we're going to add in some really simple shadow underneath as well. So we're going to go to our colours and grab the bottom colour here in the third column from the right. And just round the base of the tree, you just want to sort of blend in this darker colour, especially right up close around the base of it. Keep it nice and sort of dark, and then sort of scratch out a few little details here and there maybe. You know, just sort of expand the shadow, maybe more so off towards the right hand side where the shadow is being sort of pushed across, of course, because again, that lighting is coming from the left hand side. It's always critical to keep remembering where your highlights are coming from. Where's your shadows going to then end up? Let's then move on to the background. So we're going to create a new layer, drag it underneath our ground. We're going to go to our colours and grab the middle colour here in the far right column. Your brush wants to be set to the option of sprayers again and the soft airbrush. And I'm going to make that brush size nice and large again, probably around about sort of 500 to 600, if not slightly larger. And then in the top left of our sort of background area, we're going to go left to right and sort of blend across the screen. And there is a gradient tool, but I like to be in control of it. So I'm just going to build up the colour more so in this top left area of the background and blend it out across the background, giving it a nice, good, solid amount of colour. Then we'll create another new layer. We'll go to our colours and grab the top colour here in that second column from the right. So top colour here in the second column from the right. And then behind your tree, just go left to right and just add in a nice cold little bit of sort of fog almost. So just blending it up. Now you may start to lose the outline of your ground, and I'm not opposed to that, so that's fine. Just blend up with some of this really light white colour and just create that nice little bit of atmosphere. Then we'll go ahead and add some snow. So let's go in front of our tree. Let's create a new layer and tap on that layer and turn off the clip if it clips itself automatically. So just in front of the tree and underneath our circle guide, we're going to go to our brush. We're going to go to sprayers again, but we're going to use the water splatter. I've used this previously for snow in my Olaf tutorial. So we're going to use this brush here. We're going to max out the size up to 100%, so 750. And we're going to use 3 different sort of sizes to our snow. So these are the largest ones, and you just want to sort of drag across the top of the screen and see what sort of snow you can add. You are in front of your tree as well. And then change the size, drop it down, maybe drop it down to about sort of 400, and then add in some snow in here with the 400 size. I always tend to create 3 different sizes, small, medium and large, with something like snow or stars. Then go to your brush and again reduce it down to your small size this time. So maybe around about sort of 200, and we'll add in some nice smaller ones. In fact, let's go smaller than that. Let's go even smaller. Let's go down to about 140 and just create some really nice teeny tiny little areas of snow. And I want to kind of focus it a bit more towards the top and a bit more in front of our tree. You can, of course, drop some snow in front of the tree, so feel free to do exactly that. And I'm just building up the snow and just letting it sort of fade out towards the bottom. And then you can always go back up to your largest size and maybe add in some more if you feel is necessary. I want to try and get a few in front of the tree. So now we've done that, let's add in some lights to our tree. So we're going to go ahead and create a new layer. I'm going to drag it underneath our snow there. So it's underneath our snow layer. We're going to go to our brush. We're going to go into the option of glow. And we're going to go ahead and use the soft glow brush. And we're going to make the brush size for this brush. We're going to drop it down to around about the 70 mark. So just drop it down to around about 70. And then color wise, we're going to go from left to right across these bright colors here. So if I zoom in, all I'm going to do is just keep going from left to right across these 5. So if you see me quickly sort of jumping around the palette, that's all I'm doing. We're just going to go around in a circle until we build up a lovely glow and just keep adding in our bright bulbs on our tree. So just going to keep going along all the colors and make our way down our tree all the way to the very bottom. I'm going to start with another one here. The orange ones look really, really good. I'm going to go back. I want to make sure I'm going along the palette in the same order. You can do whatever colors you want though for your tree. If you want to vary up the palette, you can do. It's totally up to you, and it's not critical to follow me exactly where my positioning is either, but that's the order I'm going to go with because it looked quite good in my practices. So let's keep making my way across. Now sometimes you may get like a little bit of snow in front of your lights, and that's fine. You don't have to worry about it too much. And I'm just going to squeeze in an orange one on the end here just to vary up my pattern a little bit. And then I'm just tucking one under here and then making my way across at a bit of a diagonal fashion, as you might be able to see. Making my way across the tree. And as you get towards the wider areas at the bottom, you'll be able to squeeze in some more bulbs into your row. So your colours will start to have less of a pattern to them. And also vary up your bulbs. You don't have to make your way from sort of the top to bottom all keeping the same sort of glow and all the same sort of size. You can vary them up. It's not critical. And again, it's not critical for you to do the pattern in the right way either. The colours, for example, you can do whatever order you want. Maybe even try picking one colour and seeing what that looks like and see if you like that kind of look. I'm particularly happy with the orange colour. I think that one looks the best. The orange and the blue tend to have these wicked glows to them, especially when you get down here into some of the areas where we've got some, a little bit more shades to our design. So the colours can just pop even more. Over here on the left side, you're battling with the highlights, and you don't want to try and fight them sometimes. You just want to, allow them to do what they need to do and then just come back and go back to your shading side here. You should never try and sort of battle your highlights too much. Otherwise, you're just going to be competing for what's the brightest point of your design. And also what people should be looking at. It's going to keep going all the way across. Making my way all the way, and I think we're going to end up in a minute with the very bottom of the design. Don't think we're going to be able to squeeze in another row, and I'm not going to force it. That's another thing. I'm not going to try and force it. So now we've got our bulbs. Let's go ahead and swipe them out to the left. Let's tap on the layer and let's duplicate it. The bottom one out the two, we're going to go up to our options. We're going to go to edit. We're going to go to the option of filters, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab the blur tool. So we're going to grab blur. And once you've got blur, we're going to swipe from left to right. And you should be able to see like a bit of a change in your bulbs, just like adding a bit of color around them. You don't want it too sort of stuck to the bulb, otherwise you're going to end up with a very sort of focused area of lighting. So if you sort of blur them out to a good point, maybe around about sort of 70%, it's very, very faint, but you're just sort of diffusing that light out a little bit. And about sort of 65, 68 looks pretty good to me. And then we're going to hit the tick when we're done. And then we'll tap on the layer. We'll change to blend mode. I'm going to go to the option of linear dodge. And then we're going to go ahead and just tap on the layer and duplicate it a couple of times until you get like a really nice, just really colorful, fun glow to your bulbs. You can maybe duplicate it again to make it even brighter, but some of the blue ones here are a little bit too bright. So you could potentially grab your eraser, tap on your eraser and just use something like, we can use the soft airbrush or calligraphy in the monoline brush. And just get in here with a good sort of size to it and just sort of cut away some of the shapes if you want to. So if some of the bulbs are a little bit too bright, I'm going to change that to the soft airbrush and airbrushing. So we're going to go to the option of sprayers. We'll grab the medium airbrush even, and we'll set the size to something small. So I can just go in here now and selectively maybe just sort of turn down a few of the bulbs. You don't want them all being super bright. And you can do that on every layer. You can go back in and maybe turn a few down, taking a look at your tree. Just make sure you're happy with all the colours. And then the final little touch to make to this is to add in a shadow to the background. So if we go ahead and we go up to our frame here at the top that's being nicely containing all of our layer, we can go ahead and we can create a new layer in front of it. We'll tap on this new layer and we will clip it to the circle itself. We're then going to tap on the circle frame and we're going to go to the option here of select. So we've now selected that frame around the outside, but I want to select everything but the frame. So I'm going to go up to this option here and we're going to invert the selection. So we're going to tap on invert. So now I've selected everything but the frame. If we then go up to the empty layer above that we've got clipped, we go to our color. Let's go ahead and expand this out. Let's go ahead and grab the color here at the bottom of the third column from the right. Our option wants to be changed to the tool of the fill, and we're going to tap and drag to the right in this space here and hit the tick when we're done. And then also tap on this red dot here too. Now you visually won't see too much of a change, but what you've done is you've filled in the empty space, but because it's clipped, you can't see it because it's clipped to an empty area of space. If we then go ahead and go to our edit options, we go to the option of filters and we go to the option of Gaussian blur. Once we tap on Gaussian blur, we can then blur this out up to maybe something around about, say, 75%. Hit the tick when you're done. Then if we just move that out of the way for a moment and we'll scale our palette down to, we'll grab our tools, we'll go to edit and we'll go to basic transformation. And if we can go ahead and adjust the angle. So every time you move this around, you're just deciding which angle the lighting's coming from. Now, the majority of the design has been top left to bottom right. So I'm going to abide by that rule. I'm going to bring it down towards the bottom right. I'm scaling it down in size just to shrink the shadow down a tiny bit and just stick it underneath this bottom right edge. You can make it as big or as small as you like. It's totally up to you. And you can also turn down the opacity of the layer if you wish. But hit the tick when you're done and you should have been able to create this awesome 3D effect, almost as if it's like a badge. And if we go ahead and we go full screen with 4 fingers, we end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. As always, make sure to tag me in your finished creations over on Instagram. Make sure to then subscribe to the channel for more Infinite Painter content. And with all that said, have a wonderful Christmas and I'll see you in the next one.